explosions. You are no god, Lucian! Lucian, you jest.
Hail and well met, Gillinor. Today we are going over Desert Treasure 2's lore. This will assume you have a grasp of general lore of OSRS, but I will supply all needed RS3 context. I'll talk about some points from another YouTube channel named Neri, as well as a Reddit post or two by Bobly81 with links to both in the description. A great thanks as well to one of my Twitch followers, Kaives Pussy Quieto, for all the times he made me die at Demonic Gorillas to review a new lore distraction. Thank you, man. So, follow me on Twitch the moment the quest releases as I explore it. Let's not waste any more time and get right into things. Starting with Postal Mail and Gnome Children. Who the fuck wrote this script? This might sound incredibly strange, but it is immensely important we talk about this. Every few months, the OSRS team releases somewhat fourth dimension breaking letters that real players have submitted to NPCs in the game and are returned with a response. Normally, these can be quite comical. Other times, though, they can reveal incredible teasers for future content to come. I have for you today 3 letters that are absolutely incredible. The first letter is sent to the Bottomless Pit in the Camdozaal ruins. Dear Bottomless Pit in the Camdozaal ruins, I thought I heard some strange whispers when I peered into your inky depths. Might have been my imagination, but I figured I'd ask Posty Pete to toss this note down and see what happens. Either way, I hope to learn more about you in the future. Many of my favorite adventures have involved bottomless pits and mysterious whispers. Sincerely, Longer Road. Posty Pete. Well, what do you know? There are whispers down there. Luckily, I've been working on my transcription skills. Here's what the Bottomless Pit had to say.
Here, in the inky depths, we languish in sorrow. Come, join in our choir of shadow. Come.
This guarantees that the Whisperer will be the boss at Camdozaal. But something else that is interesting is the use of the personal pronoun we. This thing is an amalgamation of creatures, and I must imagine it was born after the siege of Lasar, since the other ghosts we see in Lasar make no special mention of it. The boss has a drop in concept art for a siren staff. The only siren we have met is Shura at the Nightmare boss. In conversations, we know that there are more of her kind in Ashihama. We know of other foreign creatures devoted to Zaros, such as Char, the last fire enchantress Uspa of Acheron, Vindictus, one of the few remaining Ilyuzhanka dragon riders from another realm called Iaya, and Chthonian demons of Infernus. A siren of Ashihama seems rather tame by comparison. If they are able to create something like the Nightmare, I shudder to imagine what lies in that pit. The next pieces of mail are a twofer sent to the Chaos Elemental. The first was sent by Rockfish82, who innocently asked the Chaos Elemental strange questions about what he is, and the dev team took a clearly different approach.
Rockfish82. I walked across the sands and saw the ruins of time. The Forgotten Four were there, but now they hide from the Serpent. The Abyss left a scar, and she was consumed. But he hid in his prison of ice. Vardorvis wanted blood, but he was strangled instead. Now at Lasar, only whispers remain. Divided but united, their essence is delighted. With all four, you will open the door. Will he find his vessel? Yours. Leth Napier Flem.
If it is implying the Forgotten Four are the soon-to-be bosses of Desert Treasure 2, then that means each one has to have been in service of the Empty Lord, Zaros, ages ago, when it says they were there. We even get name drops of Vardorvis and the Whispers. We'll leave that for the boss section, though, to discuss more, as the Serpent is way more important here. There are 3 potential theories I have to offer you. The most commonly accepted theory comes from the now lost Guardian of the Rift mage, Mia Perston. She was sucked into the scar and presumed dead. Her wiki reads that her name is an anagram of I am Serpent. Unfortunately, I have been unable to confirm why it says this at all. Since it is a wiki article though, I do have a tinfoil hat conspiracy that a mod themselves may have introduced this line to the wiki. If someone has found the source for this though, please share it with me in the comments down below. If this is wrong though, it is difficult to say if the Serpent is related to the Leviathan, as the letter would suggest it is not the same as the 4 bosses of the quest. If it were to be related, then it suggests that the Leviathan was not originally the boss of Smoke, and instead became it after the fact by some interaction with whomever that is supposed to be. However, if both of those theories are wrong, then allow me to offer an alternative theory. It took me a while to piece this together, but this very well may be Lornab, the Hydra god slain by Zaros. When Zaros first arrived in the plain of Gilnor, he could only bring a small force of Avernic demons that were led by one of his Chthonian dukes. However, he soon found a way to overcome this when he discovered Lornab in now modern-day Sentistan. After a fearsome battle, Zaros was able to imprison the god and drain his massive Animae Mundi to summon an enormous army of demons before the Hydra god was completely drained and killed. An artifact found in RS3 from archaeology at Sentistan even has the name, the Serpent's Fall carving, to further back my theory. But this would be very strange given that the god is now dead. The Chaos Elemental's final words are a bit of a mystery, however. It mentions something finding their vessel before signing off the letter with the anagram for the fallen empire, Leth Napier Flem. It is difficult, honestly, to say what this might be, so let me know in the comment section below what you think it might be. I'll be reading it all. The only guess that makes any sense to me is that it is the body of Zaros. There is reason to believe that this could be the case, as when we resurrect Zaros in RS3, his body is not normal, and in fact, he does need us to create him a new one for him to be returned. Finally, the last letter to the Chaos Elemental. Lewu writes, O gaseous horror, who resides so deep, by Charin Castle you do so creep. Tentacles flail with eldritch flare, chaotic magic, disturbs the air. I have for thee a simple ask, as you have done so in the past. Grant us foresight of what's to come. Afford me this, and thy will be done. As your thrall, I'd submit to you. Give my loyalty for just a clue. Lewu.
O noble being of mortal life, hear these words and know of strife, where judges fight and trolls flaunt. The Duke feasts in his icy haunt, while to the west, in strangled weeds, the headsman waits, for blood he pleads. And below the waves, within the scar, the admiral drowns in smoke and char. But hidden away where light dies, a whisper is heard and shadows rise. So hear me now, or face the fire. You'll find the truth in the fallen empire. Dags gritting, Brugate Arestis Hier.
The second line clearly speaks of Duke Suxellus and the Gorak fortress of the north, as the Mahjarrat were known as the stern judges during their servitude to Ichclairin, and the fortress's ancient prison is hidden below the troll's Weiss. The next boss mentioned is Vardorvis, as the letter mentions the headsman, which refers to his title as Carnifex Maximus, or Greatest Executioner in Latin. He's known to have chased after Yonrith Lovakenj to Korend in the west. The ruins of Mora is where he is suspected to be, which sits among the waterside with reeds. The fourth verse is harder to decipher. It clearly depicts the scar of the Temple of the Eye, which sits on the seabed, but this admiral must be the original smoke boss before it became the Leviathan. He likely was the one that attacked the temple, attempting to take this Eye of Saradomin, or the Stone of Jas as it is known to us. Finally, the verses speak of the Whisperer in the pit of Camdozaal, clearly before signing off in another anagram. The first bit, Dogs Gritting, is almost definitely Start Digging, but I'm notoriously terrible at puzzles, and I couldn't determine the final portion, so if you know what it might be saying, do let me know once again in the comments below. Although there are letters to the gnome child as well, I'm not bringing him up now for that reason. Instead, I bring him up because of speculation within the community about one of the weird things he has said over time in the game that is believed to be related to the quest.
A horn was hidden in the sand, sealed away by the Forgotten Four.
There's only 2 horns I know of in RuneScape that are this important. The least likely option is the Elder artifact that is quite literally named the Horn, but I don't think this is what we're talking about. I believe this is almost guaranteed to be instead Frostinhorn. This artifact's origins are unknown to us, but it has the power to amplify the powers around it. That is how the Fremennik ended up giving it this alias name, as they mistook it the flash freezing of the cold winters around it for its power. In RS3, the Frostinhorn was used in the Temple of Senliten to commune with Zaros once more. Desert Treasure 2 is guaranteed in some manner to be a spiritual successor to the Temple of Senliten, as we're even going to acquire the ruinous powers, or at least we were. It is rather odd that the executioner instead becomes the executed. This was a very good point by Neri, that it appears that one of the killers was none other than Romarno. keeper of the sacred forge in Camdozaal. He chased after Yonrif Lovakenj, the founder of the Karen faction. We know this from a ghost found wandering the halls of Camdozaal. Neri believes there is a potential problem with this theory, as he believes Ramarno is an imposter due to his blindness, sustained scars, and his strange interaction with a red berry pie, considering he is an Encamdo dwarf. This is, however, incorrect, as this is the same dwarf we find in RS3, tending to the sacred forge with all the same ailments. He was injured during the barbarians' runecrafting crusades, which was what resulted in the fall of Camdozaal. The Leviathan is known from RS3's elite dungeons as a serpent-like creature. Like Ulm, there is potential for this creature to be designed as a draconic creature, and this may be explained by Morgiana and Cassim found in the Oasis. How convenient this is for us that there is a small island that was added to the game at the same time the Ancient Vault was added in January of 2023. The island is likely bare bones, so that players did not receive spoilers when exporting the map to Blender. In RS3, the Leviathan was tied to a material called Blackstone, which is interesting given the distinguishing mark on the island, as well as a reference to this material in the dev diary. But if the island we found is related to the Smoke Boss Leviathan, and the Guardians of the Rift tell us the scar is deep under the sea south of Mauritania, how are the two related? Holy Sarah Doman's left nut! Some people believe that Mia Perston is the Leviathan boss, since, as we discussed, her name is an anagram for I am Serpent. Leviathans have existed in Gielinor before, as we know from an exhibit of their bones in the Varrock's museum. So this does not lend itself well to the idea, but it is not impossible. If we were to merge the theories together, then it would leave us with some entity that we met in Al-Kharid during the Temple of the Eye, and it has been secretly hunting the four bosses and tricking us, and somehow will turn into a Leviathan. Honestly, the least crazy thing I said there was our players helping some complete stranger they never met before with a potentially world-ending plot, considering that is like 99% of the shenanigans we end up in if we get even a whiff of rewards. Bobly81 did offer a prediction that, in his Reddit post, has a very good chance of being partially right. He believes that the Mahjarrat Sliske will be the main antagonist of the plot, and that our player will, like most quests, absolutely make the world a worse place by doing exactly the thing that is on the villain's to-do list. I think this is actually spot on because of recent mini-quests we've completed at the Barrows Brothers. It is well known that Sliske is the puppet master of the Barrows Brothers in RS3. That is guaranteed to be unchanged even now. During his Faithful Servants mini-quest, we obtain a strange icon that is guarded within the crypt for the strange old man. This is exactly like the Temple of Sentistan, as the icon absorbs the unanswered prayers of the fallen adventurers in the crypt. This power was used to commune once with Zaros. The twist this time, though, is that instead of Azanadra later using it for this purpose, the strange old man destroys the icon, and when confronted, he says, "Yes, needed it for him, but not to keep. His friend asked him to protect it, but he made a new plan, a better plan." This clearly is a reference to an interaction between Sliske and Azanadra that we did not see. Azanadra has to be his friend, as he asked Sliske to have his Barrows brothers protect the icon. That would mean that the other person is Sliske, and he has a new and better plan than just using the icon to commune with Zaros once more. One thing that we know will always be true, though, is that Sliske will act as a friend rather than a foe, right up to the point he backstabs us. Stay wary of him, adventurer. In this final section, I want to cover minor characters in detail that could be of incredible importance going forward. As you will recall, we last see the assassin in Secrets of the North abducting Jalin before disappearing into the Shadow Realm. Now, I have taken a very long time to piece this all together, but I have some theories behind all of these actions. Originally, in RS3, this assassin is a hired mercenary from the Wushenko Isles by Azanadra. However, given that he is able to enter the Shadow Realm, and that Sliske clearly has a new plan according to the strange old man, I think the assassin is working for Sliske now if he becomes involved in the story as predicted. This would explain why the assassin is capable of such feats if his benefactor gave him the Ring of Shadows that we will be rewarded with during the quest. But why abduct Jalin though? He clearly wants access to the ancient prison for one of two reasons, or both. The first would be for the artifact Haziel spoke of in the quest. This artifact naturally would have been the Frostenhorn like it was in RS3, but I am unsure if that is true now because of the eerie words of the Gnome child. I also considered the Stone of Jas briefly, but there's no indication that it has been stolen yet by Lucian from below the Tears of Guthix, where it should be for now. Whatever is down there, something similar to Frostenhorn is still incredibly powerful. The other reason for opening the prison might also be to release Duke Suxellus on purpose. Sliske, if involved, is an agent of chaos and has a history of releasing Zerosian-aligned allies of power in the past as well. For instance, he did trick Ashulat Reese, the next bank NPC, into thinking she and other Guthixian druids were going to summon a powerful avatar of Guthix to end the conflict in the God Wars dungeon. This does leave Jalin in an interesting position. He was a sacrifice for the ritual in RS3, but that was by the hands of Lucian. Now, a Zerosian would hold his life captive if theories are correct. I still believe he's going to be the next sacrifice, but it'll be interesting to see how the story will morph if it comes to pass. I grouped these two together because of the potential they share. Originally in RS3, a Mahjarrat we are close allies with is Wahi Saitel, a master shapeshifter. We didn't know it until the ritual because he came before us as a man named Ali the Wise. Originally, I thought Ali the Tea Seller in OSRS was going to be Wahi Saitel, considering he was added at the same time as the Ancient Vault to the map. But this quickly changed once I learned of Elias White. His name can be an anagram for Wahi Saitel, and when he is examined, he is described as a wise explorer, which can easily be a nod to his alias in RS3. It is rather odd that he shows interest in the mastaba that was added in the area, as this should be the mastaba of Queen Senliten, as we will discuss, and Wahi Saitel was not involved during that quest. I still believe the Tea Seller is connected in some important way to the story, but it is difficult to understand how from his teaser. He makes a comment about 4 thieves, which might be interpreted as a reference to the 4 upcoming bosses. This is strange though if they are considered thieves by him, because they all should be under the same allegiance to Zaros if they stole from someone at the Ancient Vault. His home has some strange looking Caridian armor on the top floor and a table with many scrolls on it. He is Caridian if he is not an imposter, so this perhaps is not too out of the ordinary. These two are even more bizarre than Elias and Ali at the New Oasis. Not only are both characters of opposite alignment in gods to Saradomin and Zamorak respectively, they also share some unique details about them that suggest they may be involved with a dragon at some point. With Morgiana, this is noted from her strange shield that appears to be a modified dragonfire shield, while Cassim has some interesting dialogue about a tea recipe he has that would aid against dragons. This may very well have something to do with the Leviathan. When confronted further about if any dragons typically show up around the oasis, Cassim replies back in a rather shady manner. To further descend into tinfoil hat madness, I do believe Morgiana is also an Ician, an angelic-like humanoid much like Commander Ziliana and Cephalon. The reason for this is the dialogue she offers regarding tea. When she denies giving players the recipe to her tea and claims it needs magical ingredients, our player responds that she can keep her secrets. This is quite a popular quote from Lord of the Rings and is said to Gandalf, who is also an angelic creature known as a Mahjarrat. This, combined with her justiciar armor, Saradomin sword, and her odd choice of words that suggests living for a long time. Moia is the half Mahjarrat, half human daughter of Lucian. How, you might ask? Given that Mahjarrat reproduce via only the ritual of enervation and not sexual means? Well, you'll have to ask your parents for that because this is a lore video and we're gamers. We don't believe in myths like women and grass. Moia could be a massive part of the story as she is in a unique position compared to RS3 at this time. During RS3, Moia was sent after Bilrach. Bilrach is a Mahjarrat who is responsible for the existence of oh god, I think I'm gonna be sick. Okay. He was responsible for dungeoneering becoming a skill. Veterans will remember the red mist that made every single player on RuneScape all face towards Daemonheim at the same time as a teaser. Yeah, that was Bilrach sitting a Chelad Maw the fuck down to rejuvenate himself and skip the ritual. Considering none of these events have happened as far as we are aware, and the history of how OSRS players feel about that part of the game, it is very possible that this whole part of the lore is completely changed and frees up Moia for extracurricular activities. I mention all of this and the context because the devs released in a blog a picture at the end of a teaser where the player is interacting with a red-robed individual. They seem to be a female, and given that Moia's color palette includes reds and purples, I'm making a hot take right now that this is her we speak to at the Ancient Vault. Bilrach will likely still be absent throughout the story for now, as even if we may never see anything remotely like Daemonheim in OSRS, he still makes for an interesting story of a hypnotized fanatic who is chasing after what he thinks is his lord Zamorak's return to Gielinor, but is instead being whispered to by a dangerous entity at the Rift. Likely something to do with infernal demons, but that is an unrelated story currently. Finally, the ancient queen of the Caridian Desert, Queen Senliten, an enemy to the Zerosians. It is unclear if she will be involved in the upcoming quest, but there is a chance. Originally, we discover her as a spirit in her final resting place in a mastaba that is just south of Uzer Ruins. Sound familiar? That's right, she is undoubtedly resting now in the newly added mastaba that is next to the new oasis that Elias has taken interest in. She was a part of the Mahjarrat story as she helped us free Arav from the control of Zimmerogel. But beyond that, she had more interest in her homeland, such as returning monkeys to it and dealing with a mascot more than anything. It will be interesting to see how this dynamic might change with a mascot in the future. That is everything I had for you Find Adventurers today. If you enjoyed the video and you'd like to see more, naturally smash the like button, subscribe, and click the bell notification for more updates. This video took multiple iterations of scripts, research, and so much more that started months ago, and it still took me right up to release day to produce. If it was not obvious from the footage quality, I could have done a better job, and I'm trying to improve as a new content creator despite working a full-time job, so any support is greatly appreciated. Do follow my adventures on Twitch, as I consistently stream 3 times a week, and I'm going to be live the moment the quest comes out. I also started a Patreon that can be found in the description below if you want to support there for any perks. Any money I make is meant to be reinvested right back into generating better content for you all, whether it's hiring an editor, a Blender specialist, or more artists. I plan to always put this back into this game. Thank you, and I'll see you on the 26th.